think what's really interesting in the survey is it suggests that pharma marketers are really getting it in terms of millennials' habits with respect to brand loyalty and the way that they consume media. And that's really good news. So I think that's great. I think they also see that agencies are also recognizing that they do face, however, a lot of the similar challenges that we faced before that are accentuated with millennials. So the idea of an authentic voice, the idea of leveraging, sharing content becomes a challenge for pharma. So they definitely understand the importance of it, and they get it. I think they're still going to have to tackle a lot of the same types of challenges that they have faced previously, but we continue to see more and more companies starting to be able to leverage the type of approach to millennial marketing that we see works in other areas beyond healthcare. Yeah, I think pharma is on the right track. I think that, again, it starts with recognizing the need for it, and I think the survey suggests that most marketers really understand it. It may depend on the therapeutic area you're in or the business challenge that you're facing, but I think by and large most people appear to recognize the importance and their understanding of a different way of having to communicate with the millennial audience. Again, though, I think in terms of their ability to be able to do that, given the traditional approach that pharma has taken in the past, is definitely challenging. But I think it starts with the understanding and appreciating the level of importance. And the good news is that the agency partners also recognize that. And I think for pharma, they may be able to elevate the relationship with the agencies to be able to support them in figuring out exactly how to tackle that. Well, I think a couple of things for somebody who really wants to understand how to market to a millennial audience is it starts very much like it would with any other cohort or any other audience. You have to understand how people live, you have to understand how people learn, and you have to understand the nature of how they want to have a relationship with any company, including a pharmaceutical company. I think the things that are a little different that we see come out in the survey that are important for pharma marketers to get their head wrapped around is obviously the channels of communication. So really understanding that millennials communicate in different ways than different cohorts. So the importance of social media or the importance of digital communication, the ability to share experience, the willingness to want to learn from other people's experience is accentuated with the millennial experience. The other thing is understanding not just the channels but the tone, which struck me in the survey. The authenticity that is expected by millennials in interacting with an organization or a company is heightened. And so I think pharma marketers need to be very cognizant of that when they're thinking about how they're going to plan to engage with the millennial audience. So I think it starts very much like it does with marketing to any other cohort, but being aware of those unique differences. And I think the one other fundamental difference, and it came out in the survey itself, was there's an expectation of authenticity around that relationship and the idea that they will drive the relationship. And so the idea of controlling the relationship or managing the relationship, I think with the millennial cohort is not going to be very successful. So anybody in pharma marketing who wants to go down the path of engagement with a millennial consumer, I think really needs to appreciate that they're going to have to let them call the shots. And that is a daunting and very different way of approaching marketing than we have in traditional markets. One of the observations I think we see in the survey is that both for agencies and for the manufacturer respondents was that they recognize that millennials are important, certainly if they have a product or they are in a therapeutic area that is highly affecting millennials. Importantly, everybody saw that millennials are going to be an important demographic in the future. One of the things I think that I've dealt with has been actually for millennials as caregivers. Because I think the thing that we can't ignore is that even if our intended audience is an older patient, that there's a caregiver network around that patient that very often is reflected in a relationship with a millennial. And in many cases, that millennial is driving the way that they're getting information and the way that they're seeking information. And so even in categories that I've been in, which have been typically for older patients, we've recognized that we've had to be available to that particular audience, which in many cases reflect the type of media consumption patterns that are inherent with millennials. So we've had to look at leveraging different channels, not necessarily because they were the absolute target of our medication, but in many cases because the people who were advising those people needed to consume information that way, and so we addressed it that way.